Sheriff, let me come back to Mr. Zullo's point here. He is saying that that Barack Obama, A, stood up and said, this is my birth certificate. B, the White House put it up. They're bringing back to the earlier question. If A and B are true, then C is true, that you are in fact accusing the president of lying, and B, the White House of being engaged in a conspiracy. Since he swore, he said, this is my birth certificate, and you're saying that appears not to be the case.
I didn't say that. Once again, we're looking at a birth certificate and see if it's a legal document. That's all.
You're saying,
let's see what happens from there.
But you're saying it's forged. You're saying the White House put a forged birth certificate on the World Wide Web. True?
Answer that. He can answer that a little better.
After what you've seen here today, you have to come to the conclusion that the document is manufactured. It's got links and it's got layers. And it was put up on the White House website. I'm going to go one step farther for you. We have identified the computer manufacturer, where that document resided 20 minutes before it was uploaded onto the White House website. It was sitting in a computer. It is built, manufactured by layers. If it wasn't, we would have told you. We showed you how it should have looked. The fact that the President of the United States is saying that this is his does not mean we are accusing him of creating this or having any hand in this. We're not. You're jumping to that conclusion. We would like to find the individuals who did it. We would actually like to start with the person who pressed the upload button and work backwards. We'll probably find them.
Mr. Zullo, you're seeking transparency, and,
yes,
and so are we. So in the interest of transparency, can you talk about your political affiliation? Are you a Tea Party member? Are you a Republican?
No, I am a Republican. I am a Republican. I'm not a Tea Party member. And I'll give you my funny little story. This was not on my radar screen. This issue was out there. I don't know really, at that point, really much about it. I didn't know who Jerry Corsi was. The name was familiar. But I'm not a political junkie. It'll be a little comical. I was literally sitting in front of my computer eating a bowl of Cheerios when I was asked to come down and see the sheriff. This was not on my radar screen. I was the one who led this investigation trying to validate the document. Attorney O'Rourke is in the audience and she could testify to that. For 3-4 weeks of our meetings, I want to validate this thing. I didn't want this to happen, but it did.
Sheriff, if I could just ask you a quick question. You say this is not politically motivated. In a county that has as much going on right now with immigration and everything else, which you've been at the forefront of, what is your motivation for pursuing this as doggedly as you are?
I'll tell you why. It may be corny to you. One thing that I'm not going to criticize you, it's really interesting. You come up with evidence and all you want, you don't care about all that. You just want to know what motivations are. I guess every time I do an investigation, there must be a motivation
Don't you think
why
that's
it
a fair
went.
question?
No, okay, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer the question. It's very simple. In my heart, I'm an elected sheriff. I serve the 4 million people in this county. When 250 people come up to me and say, Sheriff, you're the chief law enforcement officer, will you look into it? I'm not going to throw it in the wastebasket and forget it. So I did look into it, but so you can't criticize me and say, Sheriff, you're spending all the taxpayers' money. What did I do? I gave it to my volunteer posse. It didn't cost 1 penny for what they have come up with. Not 1 penny.
And in a county of 4 million people, 250 people should constitute this much fanfare?
Sometimes it takes one person to open up an investigation.
Sheriff, I was a sheriff. Excuse me, your office has been accused of mishandling hundreds of sex crimes and overlooking other investigations. Why prioritize this for the cold case posse?
I didn't prioritize anything. They're free.
What else are you working
No,
on?
hold on. Let me. You're talking about something that occurred 5 years ago that we took care of, and you keep bringing that up. I do all different types of investigation. I think this is a pretty important investigation. I think it's really important. So to compare what I do, that's not fair.
Sheriff, did you not have a recent meeting with the Justice Department regarding the investigation into claims of racial profiling and discrimination? I mean, I'm glad that our attention is on the birth certificate.
You know, what's that got to do with this?
Can you tell us more about that?
No, I'm not. This has to do with the President of the United States. I'm not talking about the Justice
Why are we
Department.
not talking about the meeting?
Why would I have to? This is what this is for. I had no problems with the Justice Department.
Have you not met recently with them though, regarding that investigation?
I'm not going to talk about it. That's another situation.
Sheriff.
Investigating a law enforcement agency. Sheriff, are you sheriff?
It's a federal felony to create a U.S. Postal Service indicia. And I was wondering if you're going to turn this over to the U.S. Postal investigators who would investigate a felony of this nature.
So am I going to turn this over to the federal investigators?
No, the federal postal
Oh, okay.
investigators who
Or the
investigate-
Attorney General? Should I turn it over to the Attorney General of the United States? Haven't decided where to go with this yet. And that's going to be a big decision that I have to make, but I can't let it die. We have evidence. We went public. I just can't forget it now. So if someone is going to have to look at it. So I'll have to make that decision. That's a tough decision to
Sheriff,
make.
you say you're not accusing the president of a crime. Who are you accusing of this crime?
I'm not accusing anybody until we
Well, you said
determine.
a crime doesn't just happen.
I haven't accused anybody. We haven't found that out. Give us some
Someone-
time to find it
someone has
out.
to perpetrate the forgery and the fraud, though, right?
The what?
The forgery and the fraud which you allege happened on
Yeah,
the birth certificate
right,
and on the
okay.
selective service card.
Yes.
You've said you're not accusing the president. Who are you accusing?
I'm not accusing anybody.
Well, how does it happen then?
Because we're going to find out who did it. We don't have the person yet. What do you mean accusing anybody? That's what we're working to find out who did it.
So
Then
what's your
we'll
next
talk
step
about
to
it.
find out who did it?
Pardon?
What are you going to do next to find out who did it?
I just said I'm going to have to make a decision whether to have congressional hearings or turn it over to an appropriate law enforcement agency, whether it's in Hawaii or overseas, and make that decision.
Sheriff Joe, referencing your comments about the mother's house of Bill Ayers and the comments that your witness has being introduced to the young Obama
We got.
That was me.
as a...
We're only going to take a couple more questions, and
Okay.
you can answer that.
What about Occidental, Columbia, and Harvard universities? Wouldn't they have a duty to release that information if he was attending their schools as a foreign student in defense of the Constitution? Wouldn't they have a...
Part of the ongoing discussions with the sheriff is to determine what other documentation we think we could successfully secure.
Let me say one thing. You're asking questions. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to criticize you. But you personify what a lot of people are talking about, that have been talking about for, 2-3 years, whatever it is. And I'm staying away from that. I just wanted to get the facts of this situation. We've been doing this investigation. We have quite a bit more information, but I'm not going to go public on innuendos or anything else unless we have good evidence, good probable cause. So that's why I'm just sticking with these issues and not answering all the other questions that have been up in the universe, as you all know. I'm just sticking to this. When we get this over with, then we'll decide what to
The
do.
whole purpose then was just to authenticate the document, not to say where he was born or if he was born here, it's just the purpose
That's
was to authenticate the document.
you're correct on that. We came up with possible crimes. We're going to investigate that. And the crimes happen to be, alleged crimes, happen to deal with a birth certificate and a card, an immigration card. But we, during the course of this, naturally come up with much more information on the president's situation. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just sticking with this. I think the media should understand the evidence we have right now and stick with that. And then see what happens as we try to solve this case, Mark, and find out who did it.